inside of your console, how to bring them to life, how to bring it to life on your web browser. So I just made kind of like a dummy what's it called? A dummy design for the addition calculator where I'm trying to explain what happens when you try to change some things on the browser, and we did quite a number of things like how to add your JavaScript file to how to add your JavaScript file to your HTML file and all of that. So let's put this in the body and get validated last. Okay. Okay, so today I'll try my possible best to talk about what the DOM is because I don't really think we mentioned much about it yesterday. So yesterday's class was not really structured as I would love it to be. So today we'll be touching more on what the DOM is, and I would say this before we go into the class. Please, if there is any question at all, if at all there is anything, even if it's as small as a needle, shake it, just ask me, please. Kindly ask me so that we can know, okay, this is what is up, this is what we have to do, and these are the parts that people don't understand, we should get. So if you have any questions at all, anyone, it might be as like very small and very negligible and something like very tiny that we really don't have to spend much time on. But if you feel like you don't understand it, ask me so that I'll be able to like get my message. Like I'll be able to like explain it so that you can understand because that's what we are here for. It will be beneficial for anybody after the whole course of the event that nobody gains anything from what you have been doing so far. So if at all there is any question, you feel like you have any question at all that is bothering you that you have to solve or that you need to understand, kindly always call me back so I can explain. Hopefully we all got that. So in my course of solving the power issue that I have now, because I have a lot of like there's no power around me. So it might be a little bit loud where I am, but hopefully we can all manage and get to this class on with. So hopefully my audio is clear. Is my audio very clear and you can hear me?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you said you were going to give us the HTML and CSS of this addition calculator so that we could be following you and be doing it,
Okay.
especially the
Okay.
CSS
Probably let me just drop that.
on the
Okay.
group chat.
Let me just drop that file. Yes, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Probably let me modify it a bit before I actually drop it. Safe. Let me do
Okay.
this. For this one, button. Okay, I think this is fine. We have fields.
Hello, I can hear you.
Sorry, what? Ask. Gemma, were you saying something?
Yeah, I said I can't hear anything. Like something.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything right now. I'm just trying to like give you guys like a short code, sort of like a basic input field and everything. I just want to give you like a short thing. So I'm not saying anything right now.
Okay.
Or should I just explain a little what I'm doing? But I think it's just like normal HTML and CSS. So it shouldn't be any. Yeah, friend me. Okay. Let me just add kind of like a plus. I can see. Okay. Okay, so let me send the file now. I think I'm done. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Sorry, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sending the file now. Hopefully it goes. I don't know why it's so slow. Yes, it's so slow. This guy. I don't know why it's this slow. As I try sending it to a release, the release is on the phone. Okay, that's gone through. No, I can't find index. What's going on here? At least I think I sent it to you. Could you like send both of them to the group? I don't know why I can't access index on my side here.
Okay, sure.
I think at least it's on the call, right?
Yeah, I'm on the
Yeah,
call.
please, if you could send the index, okay. So we send the index file to the group so that we can move on with it. I don't know why
Okay.
it's not showing
The
up.
WhatsApp group
I
or
sent the CSS file, but the HTML file.
okay.
Yeah, I sent it
So
to you on Telegram. You can just forward it to the WhatsApp group.
okay, sure. Do that now.
So you can. Okay. So basically, I just make kind of like a small input field for us to see, okay, we have two inputs and the button, and we have this addition calculator thing here that we want to see some results, right? It's just a basic addition. It's just a basic calculator that does addition. So probably as we move on, we do other things, other operations like multiplication, subtraction, and stuff like that. It's going to be really easy. So let's see. This H1 should probably have a span here. Okay, let's do something. All right. So I'm going to start by giving all of them classes because the DOM, as I explained yesterday, the DOM is kind of like the whole structure. You know, what we have here is your HTML, CSS, and CSS file, right? And we know that the HTML is what encompasses is the body and the layout of all of your web app, all of your website, right? So what the DOM is literally is the meaning is the document object model. What it is just like the layout of everything. So it sees everything that is here as kind of like a tree, right? So at the top of the tree, we have this HTML, land in English that we have here. This one that we have up top is the top of the tree. Now that tree now has that branch, separate branches. The branches into two main parts actually. So we have the head part of the branch and the body part of the branch, right? So the head part of the branch contains all of these elements, all these meta elements, all these link tags and all. That's the head part. And the body part contains like the main what's it called, the main body or the content of what you want to see on your page, right? So in that body tag, we have a whole lot of elements. And what the DOM is just like targeting those elements and being able to do something from them with them. So let's say I have a body and I have a div. I want to be able to do something with that div. I want to be able to do something with the H1 that I have, the input fields that I have with JavaScript. That's why the DOM was introduced. The DOM is not part of the JavaScript. The whole JavaScript is not part of the JavaScript code at all. It's not part of the JavaScript language. It's just something that was built by engineers just to interface, like to be able to connect our HTML and CSS that we have on the main layout to the JavaScript code to be able to interact with it. It's what we call APIs. I mentioned briefly that APIs are generally just a bridge, more or less. There are those bridges between things. You can have a data API. A data API is more or less a bridge between you and a server that gives data. So an API will make you be able to connect to that server and get data from that server you get. So the same thing applies with this whole DOM thing. The DOM is not a part of JavaScript per se. It's not a part of JavaScript at all. But it's engineers have worked towards giving an API that allows us to connect what we have on our HTML side to our JavaScript side to be able to use our JavaScript to control what's happening on the HTML side of things. Do you get? So that's basically what the DOM thing is about, right? So, and I mentioned yesterday, or probably Titi has mentioned it in the HTML class, that almost everything that you do is always very, very good, at least on the side of things. Let's say you want to interact with that particular element. It's always good that you give them classes. You see this div has a class of calculator. You have this other div, you have this H1. It's always good you have classes on them, because with those classes, you'll be able to target those specific items. You know, if I want to style this particular div now, if I just go ahead in my CSS and write div, it's going to target every single div that it sees inside of all of my HTML file, and I don't want that. So to be able to state distinctively that, okay, this is the kind of div that I want to target, this is the part of the div that I want to target, that's why we write classes and IDs on each element. So the ID is more specific. It doesn't, like, you can use it to distinguish stuff that is not going to be changing, like stuff that is very, 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 let me say, more important per se. While the class is something that I can give generally. So I can give something a class and use it somewhere else. But when you use ID, you can use it. And when you use ID, you have to be specific about where you're using ID. ID is not something that you want to use in general to get. So that's that about the DOM parts of things. So what's it called? Elise, please, have you sent the what's it called?
Yes,
to the
I've
group?
sent it. Yes, I've sent it.
So hopefully we can all follow along and probably download it and have it on your PCs too. So what we'll be doing today is a little bit of DOM manipulation. And what DOM manipulation is here is, let's say you have things that you want to. Yeah, good morning.
Please, sorry, I joined late because due to light issues and stuff like that. What the file that Elise just shared, what is it for?
No, it's just for you to be able to follow along with what I have here. You know, I kind of like made a basic calculator with CSS and HTML page, right? So I just shared that so that you guys will be able to see what I'm doing and progress with me.
Okay, thank you.
Same fashion, same order. You get.
Sorry, so we can use
That's
any
my
image.
that.
You didn't send the images too.
The image part, you say I actually removed them. Yeah, you might just remove the image tag. Like for the basic calculator that I want to do, we don't really need the image tag. You know, I was just using the image to explain something yesterday, so you don't really need an image, but you can add them if you want to.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so we have here, we are just going to be explaining and going through the basics of DOM manipulation. And what DOM manipulation is, you know, I said DOM is like kind of just a layout, or you'll be able to interface it in JavaScript. So what the manipulation part signifies, or what it terms to is just to be able to change all these layouts that we have here in our JavaScript without actually having to come to our HTML file and be changing it. You know, there are conditions where you have to, like, you want something to happen whenever you click on the button or you hover over something. You can do some of those basic things with CSS, but you cannot really add those functionalities that you need. Probably I want an addition to occur when I click on something now. It's not going to add it. And why is that? It's because HTML and CSS cannot evaluate things. They're just there for you to be able to like see things, like to build layouts, to be able to like visualize things. They're not there for functionality. HTML and CSS can never give you any functionality. Do you get? So that's why we have this DOM manipulation thing, which is going to be able to allow us to fabricate, to allow us to create interactivities in our web page, to be able to like do particular actions, to perform certain actions whenever an event is occurring, probably a click or a hover or something like that. Do you get? So that's what DOM manipulation that we're going to be talking about today is all about. So yesterday we mentioned like briefly what DOM manipulation is, but I would love to go over them all over again to have a fresh idea of what the whole thing is. So let's say, what do I go? W3 schools, DOM. Okay, let's just wait for that to load up. My network is pretty sketchy this morning. Okay, so I said literally what the DOM is the document object model. That's the meaning, right? So whenever we want to access a particular item in our HTML file through JavaScript, I hope we are getting that down with detail. Whenever we want to access something, right? We want to access probably a div. We want to access an input field. We want to access an image. And we want to access anything at all in our JavaScript, in our HTML file using the JavaScript part. We write something that is called the document, right? Is what comes first at all. So what this document is since we're going to be linking this JavaScript to our HTML file, what the document does is it would read everything that is inside of this HTML file. You know, like what is stated up top here is doc type HTML, right? Which means it's a document type of HTML. Cool. Now, what this document will do is it will read everything that is inside of this HTML file, right? It will read everything that is on there. That's what documents does. Now, on the document, you have different kinds of actions that you can perform. You can see when I press the dot and I see a lot of things that I can actually do on my document file. There are all of these small, all this what's called, all these suggestions that my VS Code makes for me because I have quite a number of extensions, right? The number of things that I can do on this document thing. So one of the most important ones for us is going to be this get elements by ID, get elements by class name, get elements by name, by tag name, and all of these get elements basically, yes. They are the ones that they are the most important to us. And there's also one called a query selector. I think that's like one of the most used, and it's probably the best one, this query selector. Okay, Elise, you can go ahead and speak, please.
Okay, so I want to ask that, is it only JavaScript that you can use for the functionality? Can't you use probably other programming languages?
Python. Okay.
Like,
okay, for functionality, I think anything, you can use any other programming language. I think even if you know what you're doing, probably you could use C++, right? But you know, it's kind of like your track that would determine what you want to do. So let's say the most common type, those like the most common type in every industry is that they use JavaScript. I have people that use Python as their functionality, like they build websites off of Python. I don't like Python for anything, not because it's a bad language, it's a very, very good language. But personally, I just don't like it. So I think one thing is it's a matter of preference and it's a matter of, okay, how you want to go about it. There are a lot of ways that you can implement functionalities in your browser, in your websites, right? So were you talking to me? I heard someone say strange or something.
Yeah, sorry. I was like strange because you don't like Python. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very funny. Very, very funny. Yeah. Like I just don't like it. I don't have a good experience with it. Like I don't like it at all.
Easiest language ever.
But anyways, that's a topic for another day actually.
Yeah.
Please don't preach for me. That's the topic for another day. So hopefully I answered your question. So you can use
Yes,
other
you did.
languages to also implement interactivity in your website, right? But the most common type is JavaScript. Like just basically you want to build the website, the most commonly sought after is JavaScript. Then you can probably have Python developers. There are a lot of Python developers that build websites off of Python, and if they know what they are doing, they do quite well. So you can actually use other languages too. But I personally, I don't know other languages apart from JavaScript. That's all about it. Now, moving on to what we have on ground, you have this .query selector that we have here. Now, what the .query selector is, let's say we have in your HTML, in your CSS files, right? If you want to target a particular class, you call these things, you call all of these things a class selector, right? All this calculator, all this dot calculator. It's kind of like the same thing with the JavaScript too. They've built it so close to human, like so close to things that you can just read and that you'll be like, oh, the query selector will just probably just select something out of the HTML file, right? Now I told you that once the document does it, it will access all of the doc type, all of the items that you have here, right? But to be more specific and to be more picky, is why we have things like this query selector. And what the query selector does is the way you write it, it is a function, sort of, or let's call it a property, right? So what this does is let's read what my VS Code says. It says it returns the first element that is a descendant of a node that matches selectors, right? Okay. What does that mean? It sounds like something that you have to know as an engineer or something, but not really. Let's just take it one by one. Returns the first element, right? Let's say you have a whole div, this div, right? You have this whole div calculator div that has all of these separate divs inside of it. So what this query selector is it will return the first element inside. Let's say I select a div now and call this calculator, right? The way you call or the way you are specific about the layouts that you are calling is by writing the class of what you are calling here. It can be an ID too. You're going to write the class of what you're calling, or you can actually write the tag too. You can write the div tag, you can write anything. We're going to write what you are selecting inside of this parentheses. So let's say I wanted to select a div now. I can just do div generally, and to get every single div that is inside of this inside of this document, right? But that is not very, very good. It's not very, very advisable. I might have tons of divs, and if I'm selecting the whole, if I'm selecting to style for a particular div, or I want to add functionality to a single div, and everything is div, it is going to like cause confusion. I'm going to have a lot of issues, right? That's why the classes were actually introduced to CSS, so that you'll be able to target specific things and style them appropriately and style them respectively. The same thing applies to JavaScript too. This query selector, we can select a div, you can select a link tag, you can select an A tag, you can select any tag, kind of tag that you want. But it's not going to be specific. You can have tons of those in your website, in your layout, right? So that's why you want to be able to use something like classes or IDs to be able to target those things, right? So you want to be able to target what you have in this your file. So let's say we want to target a class of calculator, right? Okay, we go to a class of calculator. Now this is what we are doing. We are selecting a query type. We are selecting this calculator class that is on here, right? Now this is not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything at all. Sure, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to select this calculator div, and it's going to select it. That's all. It's just a query selector, you are selecting it. So let's say for adventure you want to perform actions on it, then that's when you start to call other methods on these things triggered. So let's say I wanted to set I wanted to set a particular value or something. That's when I start adding other values. Like, okay, I want to set the inner HTML. What the inner HTML means is just like the other HTML tags that you have inside, right? So that's what the inner HTML means. You want to set me, but hopefully I was not too far gone before you had done. You had lost me, chat. Mike, I don't know if I'm close. Let me check. Okay, I am. Okay. Can we all see my screen, please?
Not yet.
Okay, probably just give it a minute. I'm sharing. It's probably load up. So can you signify, like, just tell me if you can see it so I can proceed. So you can. Okay, let's see if I still. Okay, I am on. So you can all see my screen, please.
Not yet.
This is serious.
Okay, I was just sharing screen. Okay,
Okay, we can click now.
Okay, cool. So we stopped at where I was just explaining what this query selector does. So what the query selector does is just gets what you have here. It's not performing any action on it. It's just selecting this calculator class that we have here. So let's try console.login what this is and see. Let's see home and see what that does. All right. So let's go to fundamentals. It's F12. So you can see it returns a null value. Okay. Let's do a dot value. So okay. So what it does is it cannot read properties of null. Yeah, cannot read any value to null. So what this is just we are just selecting a particular element inside of this class does not really have anything. All of this cannot be visualized in the JavaScript part, right? That's why it's saying it does not have anything, like everything that is there is returning null. And what null is kind of something that is just empty. So that's what it is. So query selectors can be used to kind of like get different tags and different, for you to be able to select different things. So let's say you wanted to select this CALCS. Now it's an ID. So calcs, it's an ID now, right? It's also going to return null because it is just going to be like pretty lame. We don't have anything. We're just selecting it. We're not performing any specific action on it, right? So let's remove all of this and see this is calcs. Now, I said we can proceed and perform more action on each selected class or IDs that we have. So let's say I want to set the text content of this calcs to be something like, let's just say I want to set it something random, probably a name or something. Say calcs is a p tag, right? So if I want to set the text content, I can just go ahead and write this dot and write text again and content, right? When I write this text content, what I do is I write an equal to, and I set it to the value of what I want to, the contents I want to put there. Let's say I want to write a string of a name now. I can do Abdullah here, right? Say cannot set properties of null, setting for coming, see if I'm not doing anything wrong. Ouch, right? Says on quote type error cannot set properties of null, setting text content. Now that's pretty funny. That's to be very. Oh, I think I get why it's doing that. Cool. Get why it's doing. Very, very funny. So I get why it's doing that now. So the query selector, right? The way it works is if you want to select an ID or you want to select a class, like you would in any CSS file, if you wanted to select a class, we will do a dot, then we'll do whatever value that class is, right? So you'll be able to set what we want to set in our CSS file. The same thing applies to this JavaScript file too. So if you want to get a particular ID, for IDs, you have to use the hashing symbol, which is just this sort of Naira sign that we have here in Nigeria. What we call it is not really the Naira sign, but it's just the hash. So you put the hash, then the ID that you want to specify. Then I'm now setting the text content, which is just a pre-built function that I have in JavaScript. So the text content allows you to be able to set contents for a particular ID that you have targeted, or might be a class actually. So it might be a particular class that you have targeted. You want to be able to set the value. So that's what this is. Now let me do something. This is very, very funny. Probably that was why it was returning null before. The console.log that I had done in the initial piece where I was not getting anything. Let's check that out now. Now what I'm doing now is I'm logging what the value of, let's just remove this. This is very wrong. I won't do this anymore. I'm constantly logging the value of this document of Pre-Selector of calcs, right? So we see if that has anything. You see what it just does is it just shows us that, oh, it's a p-type tag and it has a calcs ID, right? That's what it means when it just concatenates both together. So it's a p-type tag that we are selecting and it has an ID of calcs, right? So if I do the same thing for the calculator that we had before, calculator, and calculator from here is just a div that has a class of calculator, right? So you see here, it gives us the fact that, oh, it's a div that has this calculator class, and it shows us what is inside of that div. So that's what I'm saying about the DOM. The DOM gives you the overview, kind of like the structured layout of what you would have in your CSS file, where it allows you to access that in your JavaScript file. Hopefully, I'm not confusing you guys and you guys get what I'm saying. So the DOM allows you to access what you have in your HTML file, the same structure in your JavaScript file. So it allows you to be able to target specific things and specific outputs. Let's say probably in hello again. Some very slow. Michael, please, I need to share my screen. Thank you. Service where I am now is strict schedule because of power. Okay, please tell me guys if you see my screen or if you are seeing my screen. If you can see my screen.
We're seeing the screen. So please, can you explain that again?
My screen.
Yes, I can see a screen, Mr. Abdullah. But your audio is not safe. Hello?
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Abdullah? Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you partially.
Your audio is breaking. It's going on and off, and sometimes it cracks. Network is disturbing me. Nobody's been asking me every time to link device.
Guys, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Abdullah.
Okay. Okay. I think it was Ngozi or Chune that was asking a question. So please, you could
It's
ask
still
again. I did not hear you at all. Oh, Chune. And it was very long. So you can ask the question again. I didn't hear you at all. So
Sorry, please. I wanted to know if you added anything at the HTML file. Was there anything like quotation mark?
okay. Where
That PID equal to CAX.
where exactly? Like, could you point out where you think I added something so I'll check?
That ID equal to
Okay.
CAX.
What I did there was just the P, then the I. Yes, ID is equals to then you do a normal quotation mark of calcs, like how you write your IDs normal in the HTML file.
Okay, I was thinking you added something. Then you didn't write your script at the head. It's just at the bottom, at the body section.
Yeah, at the bottom, just before you close the body. Yes, exactly. So I think I explained why I did this yesterday. It's just because JavaScript, the browser, how it executes things, it executes it from top to bottom. So let's say we put it in the top now, we put it in this head part. It's going to, like, all of the JavaScript functions that we are waiting, is going to run it first before it actually goes to our code, and we don't want that. So that's why we are putting at the end here. That's inside of our layout, our HTML for this body tag before it comes to perform the actions that is inside of this JavaScript tag. So that's why this is here at the bottom rather.
Okay, thank you. Then this addition calculator is like you just added the span class.
Can we see?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I added a span class so that we'll be able to, I wanted to make some. Yes,
okay.
I can. So the span class that I added, instead of the H1, I added a span in front of that addition calculator, right? So I want to be able to do something with it. That's why this is here. But it's not going to be doing anything now, but it's just going to be there. So probably you want to add it on your own too. So the class is actually empty. Let me just name it add. So the class is actually empty, but you can name it something, try to navigate this thing. Now, so what I was explaining is, So if you wanted to set the text content of this ID of calcs, right, all you just have to do is write the dot text content, then set what is there, set it to the value that I want. You are changing this to Abdullah. Now, if we look at our console, at our page now, we see this Abdullah, setting it with our JavaScript, right? We are printing this out. It was not there in our HTML code, right? But we are targeting with our JavaScript. That's why we can actually perform this action. So let's say I also change this to drag. This will change this with respect to what you have in your JavaScript file. So that's how you can target specific HTML syntaxes. So yesterday we mentioned something about
changing mine.
It's not changing.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have this idea of this P tag?
Okay, wait. Okay, let me see. I think I did not link it, so let me try and link it. Okay. Please come again. Linked it, but it's still not showing.
Which part? Okay. So
like you see how yours showed in the.
Yes. ID, is it the same ID? You know, if you pass a separate ID, is that ID that you have to target using the hash in front. You're going to write it like this, right? Documents.query selector, then you have a bracket. Then it's going to be a string, right? It has this quotation marks, can be single, can be double. Then if it is an ID that you're passing in, you're going to put the hash in front, then the name of the ID that you target. And if it is a class that you're targeting, you're going to put a dot in front instead of this hash. They are going to write the name of the class that you're targeting, right? Then if you want to set a text content, you have to do the dot. Then text content is text, then capital C, right? Content. Then you set it equal to whatever value that you want. So this can be a string, it can be a number, it can be a boolean. So I can set this to be 23 and it will still appear. And I think I can actually set it to be
your JS file.
So I can set this to true and it would still appear. I'll try to speak this.
I'm trying to look for where you actually define
Sorry,
this.
If you can go ahead and speak, please.
Can you hear me?
My JS file, you can just write your own JS file. My JS file is not there. I'm not saying the JS file is included. So just write your own JS file.
Okay, but I'm saying the calc ID.
What?
Where did you define it? I'm trying to go through the CSS.
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me? I said this is your calc ID.
I can
Where
hear
did you
you,
define it?
I can hear you now.
I'm talking. I'm saying something. Can you hear me?
I think his network is lagging.
Okay. Can anyone find where he defined this calc ID? Because I'm trying to go through the CSS and I can't find it.
It's not in the CSS, it's in the HTML.
Okay, where? Like I'm going through the file and I can't find it.
Okay, when you open your HTML file, you see there's a div after the first, just right before before the script file. If you go up, you see a div and then a P. It's written inside the P. The class is written in the P. Have you seen it?
Okay.
Okay. Have you seen
I just found it now. Thanks.
Okay, sure. Bye.
Try to please kindly ask your question again. I got cut off again. It's really
yeah, it's been sorted.
So you can ask your question again. Oh, okay.
And I've also been able to sort mine out as well.
Okay, that's cool. I'm joining with my phone just in case anything happens, so I'll be able to like notify you guys immediately. I don't know why it's been like this, and it's really annoying. Okay, so
Sorry, but is there any
hopefully we
property?
all understand what this is now. So you set the text content, and that's actually sorry, what?
No, because my console is telling
Was
me
anybody
that
trying to speak to me? I
yes, can
can't
you hear
hear
me?
you anymore if you were.
You can't hear me. Oh my god. Okay. Ah, I'll just write it on the chat box so that you can read it.
Hello? Hey,
We can
honestly, I
hear
cannot
you.
hear
Hello, Mr.
anything.
Abdullah.
Like the service is
Can you
really,
hear us?
really breaking. Like, sorry, could you come?
We can
I
hear
can hear you,
you.
but barely. I can hear you now.
I've sent it to the group chat, so
Or is it not the same for
type
others?
it there.
Probably I'm doing.
Charity, no property was given. We're just trying to modify it in the JS file.
Okay. No wonder there's no effect. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Honestly, guys, this is quite as annoying to me as it will be for you guys. But can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank God. So
We
try
can
to
hear you.
please, yeah, please try to go ahead and ask a question now, please.
No, it's been attended to, thanks.
Okay, okay. Ah, God. God, I'm big. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So that's about setting the text content of any HTML field. So there are many other attributes that we can actually set. We can set the attribute of a particular tag. So let's say this yesterday. Okay. So let's target this IR class, right? So can we hear me? So guys, can you hear me, please?
No, voice is still, the audio is still breaking. I can hear you, Mr. Abdullah.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can partially hear you, but your audio is still
It's,
Hello, Mr.
it's
Abdullah.
breaking a lot.
Yes. Again. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Before Abdullah comes in. Just a quick information. So I just something on the group chat. It says that you'll be having a soft skill training today, a soft skill session rather today by 12:30. Yeah. So yesterday, like the soft skill training wasn't complete. So to complete it, now you get have to actually attend another one today by 12:30. I don't know if that's fine by everyone. Did you all get that?
Yes, sir, that's fine.
So after this class today, you guys will be
But the link was deleted. Hello?
No, it wasn't. Okay, so yeah, another one came in after I dropped that message. So the one that came was actually a wrong link. So they've deleted that one, but the one I posted is still there, if you check. But anyways, I'll still post it again so that you don't get confused. Did you get that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, thank you. Yes, take it.
Hello guys. Hopefully we can hear me better now. And then Mike, please make me this close. Thank
Done already.
you. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, can we all see this?
Yes, we can.
Can we all see my screen, please?
Yes.
I was mentioning that we could use HTML. I mean, we could use our JavaScript to target separate things in our HTML file, right? HTML file. So I just wanted to check out that is. Now let's say we have this input type, right? We have a type of text and it has a class of IR now. Now, and by default, it is like we set the input type to be text. Or let's say we don't even have an input type, right? We just set an input and the type is not there, right? Now we have an input field, like a field without a type, right? We can just it's not even working if you put anything there because there's no type on it, right? Okay, the number part works because there's no type on it. But let's say we want to imagine I was saying the number type works. So I really know it will work. Now, see, we have this code here that has this class of IR, right? It does not have any type. So by default, it goes to text because for the input field, the default type is text, right? So let's say we want to set the attributes, the type of input, the type attribute of an input field is an attribute. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, on an input field now, you have to set the type of the input field that you want it to be. It might be number, it might be text, it might be telephone, it might be different kind of things, it might be a link and stuff like that. You get? So you have to set the type of input field that you want. What's it called? Titi will have mentioned it in our class. So what that is called, all of these things, the type, and for image too, you have the SRC, which is the source. It's an attribute for that HTML file. So let's say we have this default input field with nothing. So you see, if we go to our HTML file now and what am I doing? So if you go to this now and we write all of this text, it sees it and it reads it, right? Okay, fine, and that's cool because we don't have any default type on it. So with our JavaScript, we can actually set the type, the attribute of any tag that we're selecting. Now, in this case, now you see I'm selecting document.query selector of class of ir.ir, right? So if you check here, what the input class is ir. That's what I set it to be. So that's why ir is here, so that it won't look funny. Now, you now see I'm writing this type attribute, right? I'm trying to set this type attribute to this IR class, right? So I want to set the type to number. Now, if you see when I go to my browser now and I try to type text, I'm trying to type text right now. It is not showing. And why? Because we have already set the type of this IR to be a number. So it won't show if I type in any text, regardless of the amount of text that I type in, it won't show what's there. So let's say I start typing numbers now, you can see that, it shows numbers and all now. So that's one of the things I can do with JavaScript. I can even set a default input value. I can say this text content now. I want this to be ongoing GPD class, right? So by default, when we come here, we should be able to see that the text content should change to this ongoing GPD class, but for a reason, it's not changing. We'll start again. It should change actually. So by targeting the class of IR, we are setting the text content to this ongoing GPD class. So this should change. Why that is not changing? It's beyond me. But it should actually change. But we can see when we try to set the attributes, right? We have this number, and this one works, right? I'm trying to put in text, it's not going. And now this whole text thing, the number part is working because I set the type to number. So let me try to set the type to something else. Let's say tel, for example. So I don't know what tel does actually. Let's go to the type and see the types of attributes that we have. Let's say type equals. So you can actually set this to be a button also. Okay, I think there's a button type too. Let me check that. Let's set this to button and see. So you can see now that it changes to a button without actually having any, it changes to a button without actually having any text on it because we just changed the type to a button. It necessarily does not have to have a text in it because this here now does not have anything. Let's say peradventure has a placeholder attribute now, and then we probably have that on the button.
Sorry, Mr. Abdullah, I have a question.
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask.
Okay. Why is it that this only one is changing, the other?
Yeah, honestly, that was what was next to my mind. I wanted to explain. Now let's come back here. Now you see this query selector. Now I was mentioning that okay, it returns the first element that is a descendant of a node. Blah blah blah. What that means is for any IR that it sees, it's really going to affect the first IR that it sees. Now we have two IRs here, right? So we have two IRs. What the query selector does is it is going to target only one IR. It's going to target the first one that it sees. Let's say it reads the whole HTML file from top to bottom now. Yeah, it reads this whole file from top to bottom. It is going to target the first one that it encounters is what is going to have an that's going to be changing. It's going to be having an effect on. Do you get?
Yes.
Now this query selector.
To change the other one now, you have to write this document or query selector twice.
Yeah. So if I want to do that now and I want to target I want to target all of the IR tags, there's another selector called the query selector all like this. It is query selector and capital letter A, then LL. So you see, it targets all the elements, descendants of the node that match selectors. She gets. So it will target every IR that it sees and it will apply that value to it. So if you check here now, let's see. Okay, Mr. Ezra, you can go ahead and ask your question, please.
Yeah, so if we don't use a div if we have a multiple attributes that we want to target, but we don't use a div to pick one, can we use a query selector to actually target one particular attribute that we are trying to change?
Yeah, I mentioned that we have quite a number of selectors that we could use. So this is one of them. The question that Ume and Ichima asked now is she said like it is targeting only one. What if we want to target multiple ones? There are other selectors that allows us to do that. Now let's go to this dot that we have here, right? Okay. Let's go to this document and documents. Okay. Now we have all of these other classes, right? You have the one that we can get elements by ID, by tag name, by class name, by CSS selectors, and by HTML object collections. This one is not really used, but let's dive into this and see. Now what this will do is we have this get elements by ID, right, of intro. Now let's try to do that. This ID of calcs now, right? If I wanted to select an ID of calcs, I could do something like, don't let me do this. Let me just give it something else. So get elements by ID, right? Now in this case, for the query selector, we were using what's it called? We were using the hash like to signify that it's an ID, and if it's for a class, we're using the dot. But in this case now, this is more specific because what we want to do is we want to get a particular element by an ID. So you highlight me. Oh, is Mike in the call? He's not. That's fine. Sorry, Alicia, the host now. Can you make me post, please?
No, you are the host. You are the host.
You are the host.
Okay.
Alice is co-host.
No, she just changed it now, actually. No, I just seen it. So can you guys see my screen, please?
No.
It should come up any minute. So please signify when you guys see it, please.
Good morning, sir.
It's pretty annoying now. Okay. Can you guys see my screen, please?
Yes, we can see your screen.
You can see my screen.
Sorry, this class is being recorded.
I can see.
I'm not sure it's being recorded. It's still being recorded, yeah. But can you guys see my screen?
We can now. Yes, I can see it now.
Okay, cool. So, Ezra, on your question, so let's say you want to target a specific ID or you want to target some specific class names. So there are these specific selectors that we can actually use to target all of those things. Now, this one that we have get elements by ID, what it does is it just targets specific IDs that you pass into it. Now, I explained that the query selector, if you wanted to use the query selector to select a particular ID, you have to put the hash symbol to signify that it's an ID there. Seriously, you guys will have to beat me after this class because I don't understand this. Let me share again. Please signify when we can see my screen, please.
We can see your screen now.
You can?
Yeah, we can.
Cool. So the get elements by ID, what it does is it gets the specific IDs of the ID that we're trying to target. This is more specific. Let's say you want to get an element that has a particular ID, you can use this one straight up to target the ID that you want to
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Chinedu, I can hear you. I think
Sorry,
Mr.
it's like it was
Abdullah is
locked
locked
out.
down.
Please, I want to ask a question. How did he get that one that IR that affected the two buttons?
That is the class, is it the div class or what? That is the class
Div.ir.
name.
Yes,
That
the
is the class
IR.
name. It's the class name, it's the class name, the document.
Okay, is there anything he added after the query selector?
I think it did document dot get document dot query selector, then bracket dot ir bracket dot whatever I want to write. I don't know, is it name? Then give it equals to whatever you want the action to the action you want it to undertake.
Okay, I thought there was one he did query selector all.
Yeah, that is the question I asked, was trying to explain something to me. All out. Okay, were you not online before?
I was, but my network was misbehaving.
Okay, I asked him, if you're using just that document to select to get a query selector only, it's only affecting one of the button, one of that text,
Yes.
that. So I was not asking that why is it not affecting the two? Was I like, okay, that is because that's only that get query selector is for one element in the node. So if you wanted to affect all, we have to use query selector all.
Okay. The all is in capital letter.
I think it's only A that is capital letter, and the others is small letter L. I don't know.
Okay, then inside the parentheses, you use div.ir instead of .ir.
I think that is one is to explain before it got locked down. I don't really get what I use div. I think you use something like P, then you change it back to div. So I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. How may I help you? What's up?
I think when we use selector all, we cannot pass all of this, what's it called? All of the properties that we could probably set on the other ones. We cannot use it on that kind of selector. It is just used to select the items that have that particular class or have the particular ID. So for example, let's say we want to use this, there's this one that we can get elements by class name. We wanted to get all of the class of intro. We could do that by using the intro class name, right? So let's use this. Let's use get elements by class name. That's a dot style dot color. I want to explain this in a minute. I just want to see if it would affect any change. Same thing too. Does not work for this one too, and that is very, very fun.
No, I think you are not selecting it. The what you have inside the bracket does not contain the class name.
Class name. Oh, true.
Yes. There should be a dot. I think there should be a dot for the IR, yes.
Yes, there should be. Cannot set properties of undefined setting and color. Okay. One. That is very, very familiar. We are calling it without the like class name.
It should work like this now.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to see.
Maybe you should refresh.
I am refreshing. I've refreshed like tons of times now. It's still returning undefined. Let me see. Is there something that I'm doing wrong? Class of IR. It's the same thing. Let me probably change this to something else. Let's change it to SF. Nothing. It should work. At least could you try it on your side and see if it works? Because I think it should.
Maybe you should inspect it and see if the class is even on that button at all.
Class is there, at least from the code it is.
Yes, it's there. It's there. Okay, click on it. Let's see if it's giving it a background color.
No, it's not. It should be here in the...
Yes, it should be here. I think it's the way you're calling the document.
That's pretty
Maybe just do get elements by class name first, not elements first. Let's see if it would work for one. That dot get elements.
No, that's one thing. I don't think there's a single get element by class name.
There is. Yes.
No, there is not. It's only elements that you have. So, and the way it works is,
the way you wrote it should work. I'm not with my system. I should have tried it, but it should work like this. This is how to do it.
I don't understand. This is how to, like, exactly.
Even on W3 schools, this is how they did it. Maybe you should copy this code and put it on W3 schools. In that, they'll try it stuff and see if it would run.
You know, we don't have the same.
And would you use their own class name? We just want to see if the code is actually working.
I don't think it is.
This paragraph is...
Okay,
I'm surprised at the way it's this is how DOM manipulation works.
Okay. Wow, this is very fun. You should walk.
Yes, there's something wrong because even in your this thing, when you inspected it, the property is not saying it in your style sheet. It's not saying that background color. Okay. Or does it mean is it that you shouldn't use equal to? Maybe it's a B.
No,
Or is
it's
it
not.
because you not end it with semicolon? Can that be the reason?
Hello, sir. Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Try to use elements. Let's know whether it's from there.
Yeah, I'll do that in a minute. Just give me a second. Let me put something in. Yes. Come, give me a minute. I want to test this out. It works now. So what is going on? What in the world is going on? And input fields can actually be styled, and that's one thing that is very, very funny. Now, the style works when I tried running this calcs tag, right? This one that has ID of calcs, and I tried setting the style color to red, right? I'm using the get element by ID. This one, what it does, it gets the particular ID of that element. Then we are passing the style on it and we are changing the color to red, right? And this one works. That's pretty okay. Yes. That one works okay, right? But let's do elements class by class name of SM for crying out loud. And we are changing the style. Well, I guess probably that's one of the reasons. I think I understand something now. Like when we have a class name, there are a number of things that we cannot set. So that's probably why. Let's see if my HTML works. Oh, okay, I get it now. Now, from observation, what I can see here is now you see what we have here is let's see. um, Hello, Michael. Michael, are you in the call?
Yes, Abdullah, I'm here.
Okay, Michael told me that he spoke with you.
Sorry?
I said Michael said he spoke with you.
Yeah, Michael, yeah, he spoke with me.
Okay,
Yeah.
and he said like we should move the class up to some other day.
No, so the thing is, they said any day, so we can't actually move it to another day, like Saturday. So if we're moving it to like if the class ends before 12:30, that's the time it's supposed to end. Maybe it ends around 12 or let's say 11. The next day that we'll be having the class, we're having the next class, we'll add the time left that we were unable to complete from the previous class. We'll add it to the next class. So if it's supposed to end by 12:30, the next class, it will end by let's say 1 or 1:30. That's the remaining minutes, left from the previous class. I don't know if you understand. So it's not going to be like, 12:30 as usual if we get to delay the previous class. I don't know if you get me. Abdullah. Oh, okay. Just left now. So, but were you guys hearing me?
Yes, we were hearing you.
Okay. So, the thing is this. So, because before he came in, I was going to end the class before he came in, and I was going to explain to you all that if I'm ending the class now, the next class, which is tomorrow, you guys don't close by 12:30 because like we just can't. We all have to complete this course. It's an 8 weeks course, and if we're doing like this, we might end up now moving it to like extra weeks. So to avoid that, we just have to extend the time for the next day if we get to delay the previous class. So if not for that, I came back, I was going to say that the next class, which is tomorrow, won't close by 12:30. We might end up closing by, let's say 1 or 1:30 thereabout, like an extra hour.
Yeah,
No
I
problem.
think that
Okay,
is
that's
good.
fine by you over.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. So I was trying to explain that to him. I think I'll just message him, like I'll private chat him and explain the whole thing to him. Because we didn't the agreement doesn't say that we should hold classes on Saturday. So that's why the Saturdays can't even hold at all. So it has to be Monday, Friday. The only thing that can be done is just to extend the time. That's just it.
Okay.
So but now that I sorry.
So should we go now?
Should we go
Okay,
now?
yeah, just okay. Let me message since he has left. So I think he's still having network issues. So just to cut, it's still on record. So just to